Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Stennis Space Center. My name is Rick Gilbrick. I'm the director here at the John C. Stennis Space Center. It's really a pleasure for us to finally get together to honor the late Senator Thad Cochran. A special day for us, and COVID, as usual, interrupted a lot of our best plans, and I'm thankful that we're able to come together today. I really appreciate everyone coming out. I did want to recognize a few special guests that we have. Of course, we have Ms. Kay Cochran, the widow of Senator Cochran. We have Ms. Murtis Frank, who was also a former staff member of Senator Cochran and is currently the Southern District Director for Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. We also have Wynn Ellington, who is a field representative for Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. And we also have Chris Vines. He's the Southern Regional Field Rep for Senator Roger Wicker. And finally, we have Ms. Julie Miller, who is the Deputy District Director for our newly elected Congressman Mike Ezell. So welcome you, thank you for coming, and all the others that have come, friends and family, we appreciate you making the drive out here to Stennis. We're a well-kept secret out here in the swamps, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about us if you have time. But as we officially dedicate the historic B test stand as the Thad Cochran test stand, the NASA Stennis family is eternally grateful for the life of U.S. Senator Cochran. I personally got to visit with the senator many times, and he just was a wonderful human being and a very effective legislator and politician. His contributions came through a quiet approach that was highly effective in leadership roles during a congressional career spanning more than 4 decades, longest serving, save one, Mississippi congressman in the Hill. He was often called the quiet persuader for his behind-the-scenes style of securing support in Congress. And he might have been the flashiest, but he was probably one of the most effective in getting things and reaching across the aisle and really pushing bipartisan support for his agendas. In my experiences, he was always gracious, humble, and kind. I've only known a few people that pull that off when they're in exalted and high positions, and he was the same way every time. My mentor, Roy Estes, who was also one of those individuals that just made you feel like you were the only person in the room, gave you their full attention, took great interest in your life and not about them, and they both emulated that, and that's something I've tried to carry forward in my own approach to dealing with people. And you know, we did share one thing. I got to visit with him some one of my D.C. trips, and he was a cheerleader at Ole Miss, and I happened to be a cheerleader at Mississippi State. So we had some chuckles over our days of throwing our partners around. And also my mentor, Roy Estes, always said that Senator Cochran was a true statesman in Congress. And he said that Thad believed whatever was good for the country was good for Mississippi. And you know, you see a lot of people juxtapose that, and he really put the nation first, and he knew that if he had good legislation, it was going to help everyone in the country, but also his constituents in Mississippi. Of course, yesterday was the 18th anniversary of Katrina rolling through here, did a number on the whole coast, and Senator Cochran was key in getting a $220 million hurricane supplemental for Stennis Space Center. And during that time, we were able to cure a lot of the weaknesses that we found out that Katrina revealed, and we made our site much more robust against all future hurricanes, and that's been proven out in history that we've done much better in terms of, you know, redundant power feeds, underground duct banks, hardened poles, like generator systems, a whole myriad of things that he helped us put in place that has also helped our business case with all these commercial companies that come here, because they see Hurricane Alley, they're nervous about power outages and our work stoppage, and all of those upgrades help us sell the place as a very robust and good place to do business. He was a native son of Mississippi, born in Pontotoc. He was a steadfast friend of NASA and NASA Stennis throughout his career. It is especially fitting that we dedicate this test stand in honor of him. Senator Cochran was a key force in ensuring funding for NASA to modify the B-2 side of the test stand to test the Space Launch System core stage that helped launch the historic Artemis I mission last November. And it was my privilege to be on console. And after several attempts, we launched in the wee hours of the morning and had a wildly successful flight, much in part thanks to the support of Senator Cochran and making the mods on the B-2 test stand. That was about a 7-year effort, and we spent probably $300 million to get the stand ready for that test. It was a once-in-a-generation honor for me and my folks to do that, and I have a little story. it was 2011, Senator Cochran had come down here. The Obama administration had come in, canceled the Constellation program. We were somewhat adrift, didn't know we were going to have the Space Launch System program. We were out there touring the B-2 stand, which was a rusty, abandoned facility. And we were talking about how valuable it is, for our space programs to be able to test these full-up systems on the beach stand. And he had asked our deputy administrator, Lori Garver, at the time, he said, are we going to plan to test our new rockets here? And she says, well, we're not sure. It's very expensive to upkeep these stands, and we're not sure. And he said, well, are we going to go back to caveman days and not test rockets? And from that day forward, Lori Garver took a specific interest in seeing that we did green run tests at Stennis Space Center. So, as I said, he just was the quiet persuader. So he got his points across when he needed to. But his legacy is a testament to the profound impact one individual can make. Let us remember his spirit for American space exploration, NASA Stennis, and the state of Mississippi. It's a real pleasure to have you all here today. We've got a 7-minute video that I think encapsulate the legacy of Senator Cochran. So stand by and watch.
Statesman, Navy veteran, attorney, husband, father, grandfather. These are just a few of the words that describe Senator William Thad Cochran, the Pontotoc, Mississippi native who exemplified a life of service to family, state, and country. Senator Cochran served 3 terms in the United States House of Representatives and 7 in the United States Senate. His 45 years of combined service makes him one of the longest-serving members of Congress in American history. Distinguished by his diplomacy and tact in the halls of government, Senator Cochran was widely respected and admired by colleagues on both sides of the aisle. His steadfast resolve and diligence in fostering Senate bipartisanship led to Cochran being dubbed the Quiet Persuader by Time magazine in 2006. Throughout his storied career, Senator Cochran worked tirelessly to foster Mississippi's economic growth and served as a strong advocate for the Gulf Coast region. As chair of the Senate Committee on Appropriations when Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, Senator Cochran led in Gulf Coast recovery and rebuilding efforts, securing $29 billion in immediate relief funds for the region, including $5 billion for the state of Mississippi to provide grants to homeowners to repair, replace, or elevate their homes. In the words of Jackson's daily newspaper, the Clarion Ledger, the federal relief he helped secure is credited with preventing financial and social ruin in Mississippi and Louisiana after the hurricane's destruction. Senator Cochran also provided unwavering support to NASA's Stennis Space Center and to NASA's missions in advancing the frontier of American spaceflight. In 2011, Senator Cochran was among the national, state, and local leaders who helped facilitate transfer of 1.6 million square feet of facility space from the U.S. Army to the Stennis Space Center, expanding available on-site space by about 33%. The transfer paved the way for years of future growth, setting the stage for the center to attract new commercial tenants supporting NASA's work and to provide continued support for existing government partners. The following year, in April 2012, Senator Cochran helped shine the public spotlight on the opening of the $30 million Infinity Science Center, the official visitor center for Stennis that has inspired thousands of children and young adults to embrace America's space dreams and to explore the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Also in 2012, Senator Cochran supported NASA's request for funding to rehabilitate the B-2 test stand to support testing of NASA's new Space Launch System, or SLS rocket. Having tested rocket stages and systems during the Apollo and Space Shuttle eras, The stand underwent significant modifications and upgrades to accommodate the 212-foot SLS core stage equipped with 4 RS-25 engines capable of generating 1.6 million pounds of combined thrust at launch. One of the most prominent changes to the B-2 test stand included adding a steel superstructure that extended the height from 290 feet to about 350 feet, making it one of the tallest structures in Mississippi. The main derrick crane atop the test stand was also extended by 50 feet and received an increased load rating of 195 tons to safely lift the core stage. Senator Cochran also supported Stennis Space Center's effort to showcase and expand commercial propulsion testing business on site. In April 2014, the Senator proudly joined Stennis leaders and other elected officials in welcoming SpaceX on site as the company began testing components of its methane-fueled Raptor engine on the E-2 test stand. On May 30th, 2019, Senator Thad Cochran, or Gentleman Thad, as some of his colleagues called him, passed away peacefully at the age of 81 in Oxford, Mississippi. While we mourn the loss of the late Senator, we also recognize and celebrate the indelible mark he left on Stennis Space Center. On March 18, 2021, 1 year and 9 months following the Senator's passing, the SLS core stage for the Artemis I mission underwent a full-duration hot fire for 8 minutes and 19 seconds on the renovated B-2 test stand. This historic achievement would not have been possible without Senator Cochran's steadfast support for the Stennis Space Center and NASA's mission to return American astronauts to the Moon in preparation for eventual missions to Mars. As the moon-bound Space Launch System lifts off the pad at Kennedy Space Center, and our eyes turn skyward, we will be reminded of Senator Cochran's enduring legacy as a champion not only for the people of Mississippi, but for all Americans who dream of exploring the cosmic horizon and advancing humanity's shared knowledge. The Stennis Space Center family is eternally grateful for the life and legacy of Senator Cochran. Today, we are proud to memorialize the late Senator by affixing his name to the historic B-2 test stand. It is our great honor to announce that the B-2 test stand shall hereafter be known as the Thad Cochran Test Stand.
I got a tear the first time I watched it. So yeah, great video, and I'd like to now ask Ms. Kay to come up and we will unveil the plaque, and then I'll turn the mic over to her for some comments. So.
Thank you.
I won't read the whole inscription. You can come look later, but it'll be affixed to the B-2 test stand, and it'll have his name immortalized out there and the contributions he made. So.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. I sat and wrote a few notes, but today they've said everything already. There's nothing I can add that would let you know exactly what Thad was like. He was a wonderful man, and he loved Mississippi. He loved the military. He wanted to do anything and everything he could to make the lives better for Mississippians and all Americans. I can remember when he got sick, I said, "Thad, we need to think about going home." And he said, "No, I'm not ready." And I said, "Thad, we need to seriously think about going home." And he said, "As long as I am chairman of appropriations and I can put $1 in that great state of Mississippi, I will not retire." So my lobbying did no good. I'm not a very good lobbyist. I did make some notes that I planned to kind of tell you what things were like in the Senate with Thad, and I think one of the funniest things to explain what I didn't even have in my notes is I was on the train going to the Capitol one day, and the Senate chaplain was on the train with me. He was an admiral in the Navy, African-American man of very few words, but greatly admired. And he looked over at me and he said, "Work here?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." "Long?" I said, "Yes, sir, 37 years. "Who do you work for?" "Thad Cochran." "Good man, good man." I said, "Yes, sir, I know that. I worked for him 37 years and then I married him." He almost fell off the train. But Thad did love Mississippi. He was so proud to be able to serve the state 3 terms in the House and then 42 years in the Senate. He never tired of the Mississippians that came to Washington. He would sit down, he would get up from his chair behind the desk, and he'd go sit down next to the Mississippian and put his hand on his leg and say, "What can I do for you?" And he would listen. He was a great listener. He would listen and listen, and he would say, "Thank you, I'll do the best I can," and he did. He was admired. The video was great. He did help a lot of Americans because he worked across the aisle, something that seems to be forgotten these days, I'm sad to say. Ted Stevens just had a ship christened in Pascagoula this past weekend, and I originally came down for that. And then Sally, with all of her efforts, was able to put this together, and I appreciate all the work Sally did. Senator Stevens, of course, was Senator of Appropriations before Thad, and he was rather small in stature, but he was kind of gruff, and I think he was really not gruff. He was a teddy bear, but he marched around, and he would say to Thad, "Okay, Tuesday and Thursday, we're playing tennis." And Thad would say, "Oh my gosh." Senator Stevens was not a good tennis player. Thad was an excellent tennis player. I was telling some people out in the lobby, next to John Breaux from Louisiana, Thad was the second best tennis player in the Senate, but Senator Stevens wasn't. But he called the shots because he was chairman of appropriations at the time, and Thad knew which side his bread was buttered on. So that's how that went. I don't need my notes. I hope you all do realize that they lost a wonderful statesman when Thad died, because he did love Mississippi so very much and wanted to do everything he could for the Mississippians. Thank you for coming.
Well, Kay, thank you for sharing your experiences. I enjoyed talking to you out in the lobby and sharing some of our stories. Just fascinating. I could talk to you probably for hours. He just is such a fascinating man. And again, the late senator will continue to inspire and encourage us and future generations. And his memory will live on. I'm glad that, I was saying that COVID interrupted this. We were hoping to do this, and it got delayed. But I think it's good that we continue to have his legacy in front of us and never forget, all the great things he did for the state of Mississippi and for our country. I mean, he was a dedicated government servant, as we are, and he was just a model for all of us in how to serve the people. And today's an opportunity to reflect on the effort, dedication, and vision Senator Cochran exhibited while serving the great state of Mississippi. The Thad Cochran test stand now stands as a symbol of the decades of faithful public service that's brought us to this very moment. NASA Stennis appreciates all of you for being a part of today's event. It is my hope that today's dedication inspires us to better serve one another. And as we conclude, let us leave motivated by the example of Senator Thad Cochran. Thank you for coming today. This will conclude the event, and we'll have refreshments out in the lobby. Thank you so much.